There was a time when bull trout, like most salmonids, were widely abundant in the Pacific Northwest. Their range included 6 states: California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Nevada. Now, they no longer exist in California and are found only in limited areas throughout much of the rest of their range.
Well, you don't live in northern Idaho if you didn't fish. My mother canned fish. My father smoked fish. It was just part of the diet, so to speak. Plus, for sport. One of the reasons you lived here was to go fishing. You know, growing up in a rural area like that, it's a tremendous sport, lots of fun.
With the increase in human population and settlement, salmonids, including bull trout, have suffered. Human activities such as logging, farming, and development have created a general degradation of bull trout and salmonid habitat. The amount of water has decreased, the quality of the water has diminished, and introduced non-native fish species like brook trout and lake trout have competed with the bull trout for their native habitat. With these effects, we have unknowingly pushed the bull trout toward extinction.
There are many challenges that Friends of the Hylobos is facing in restoring Hylobos Creek. The first is that this is a highly urbanized watershed. We have the 7th largest city in the state on one end of the watershed, and Tacoma, which is the 2nd largest city in the state, on the other end of the watershed. And it's hard to find room for salmon habitat with so much people habitat around.
There was a long time that you couldn't see one. And then the people started to realize that that isn't a good thing, that they need the fish. And they started to do something about the creek.
Bull trout are easily distinguished from other salmonids because they are actually char. Char do not have black spots like Pacific salmonids. During the fall spawning period, bull trout, especially males, develop brilliant white leading edges on their lower fins. Another key characteristic of bull trout is the lack of blue halos surrounding the orange-pink spots on the body. If your fish has orange-pink spots surrounded by blue or magenta, you have caught a non-native brook trout. Bull trout can also be distinguished by their obvious lack of dark markings on the dorsal fin. If it's clear, it's clearly a bull trout. Because the bull trout life cycle can take these long-lived fish on annual migrations from small tributaries in the uplands to larger downstream rivers, lakes, estuary, and even ocean environments, they need a connected habitat in order to survive.
Right now we're standing on the Falls Creek drainage, and behind me is the Falls Creek stream channel right here in this patch of sagebrush. This part of the Falls Creek stream channel has been dewatered for the last 80 to 100 years, and the channel is almost completely gone. 6 miles behind me in Falls Creek Canyon, there's a population of bull trout that's been isolated for the last 80 to 100 years. When the water comes out of Falls Creek Canyon, the farmers and ranchers divert the water and run it 6 miles downstream in ditches to irrigate their hay fields downstream near the Pacific River behind you.
Bull trout, like other salmonids, need a complex habitat to survive. This means that bull trout need trees and other plants, known as riparian vegetation, to live alongside their streams. The long-term presence of this vegetation supports the food web that bull trout depend on. Riparian vegetation is also important in keeping the stream shaded so the water is cold enough for the bull trout. Another factor in complex habitat is large woody debris. Trees are important to the health of a stream, just as much dead as they are alive. When trees die, they often fall in the stream, providing not just nutrients, but hiding places as well. The combination of riparian vegetation and woody debris make a stream habitat complex. If our watersheds held cold, clean water and connected and complex habitat, both humans and bull trout would benefit.
Try to do what we can at the headwaters. We try to do what we can do at the tributaries, at the creeks, at the upper levels. We're getting it prepared. What we're doing is getting our lakes prepared for that. The return, and the people are going to return, the fish will return.
Yeah, with the issue on the protection of the habitat, I'm very happy to do that because that is my life. This stuff here, the open and the stuff like this is the habitat. Just the stream going through there for the bull trout to swim in is just one segment of that for what I have for my life, for the enjoyment of being blessed to even live into a country like this.
For several decades, fisheries biologists from the United States Fish and Wildlife Service and other agencies have paid special attention to the status of bull trout. By the end of 1999, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service had listed all segments of the bull trout population as threatened under the Endangered Species Act.
As a private landowner trying to make a living grazing cattle, anytime you hear about a listing, it's worrisome. I mean, I just wasn't even the least bit interested because all I could envision in my mind was, 5 years from the day I agree to try to bring anadromous fish back into the the water on my ranch, they'll have me regulated out of business.
Feeling I had when I first went into this, very nervous. Like I said, working with any agency personnel or whatever, because it seemed like I was always at odds with them. Even with some of your biologists been around on this stuff like that, we didn't agree on everything. We'd sit and argue the point and still get mad at each other and still argue the point.
People from all over its range, rural and urban alike, began to get involved in bull trout recovery.
So we actually started an extensive effort back in '93 to investigate the bull trout distribution on Plum Creek lands. That work actually went on for about a 3-year period over a project area about 1.6 million acres.
Well, the Nature Conservancy purchased property on the Middle Fork in 1990 in the form of a 1,200-acre cattle ranch, and we've been working since that time to restore that property. One of the main reasons the property was purchased was for wild salmonid habitat, both spawning and rearing.
We became involved in this a number of years ago with the Nature Conservancy to acquire the property from a private landowner with the purpose of restoration, but also as part of our long-range plan for the Middle Fork, which has been primarily geared towards acquisition of critical habitats and then protection and restoration of private and federal land.
So we're working with the 6 private landowners that use water out of Falls Creek to irrigate their hayfields to try to help them come up with ways to use water more efficiently so that the water they save can be put back in the Falls Creek stream channel and we can reconnect Falls Creek down to the Pacimarai River.
From the headwaters to the confluence of many watersheds, whether in cities or in the country, citizen involvement is becoming the 5th C in bull trout recovery.
As time went on, I got to thinking about it and I thought, it's really part of the culture, in the Upper Salmon Basin, and it's, it'd be cool. And the more I worked with people like Mike Larkin, the more confidence I got in him that, he wasn't trying to regulate me out of business. He was just trying to achieve his goals.
When the tribe started this program in the basin, one of the first things that we decided is that it was going to involve the local community. It was going to be a locally based program. We weren't going to try and run this program from Warm Springs or from Portland or anywhere else. We were going to staff an office here, and we were going to emphasize working with private landowners, working on private lands.
The ranching industry is so tight that we have to continually push the envelope as far as productivity. Our margins are getting thinner, so if we can have him show us how cattle and fish can coexist in an economical manner, I'm all for it.
While ranchers like Ron Burnett are getting behind the changes needed for conservation of fish habitat in the upland reaches, businesses in the city of Tacoma are also getting involved at the confluence.
I was contacted by Rocky with Planet CPR, and he had asked me if we'd be interested in this type of a program. And he came down and gave us a presentation on what they do and how they get the involvement of the citizens and the special interest groups and kids groups to install these grates. And I thought, wow, this is a great program. It'd be nice to be able to do that in the city of Tacoma. It's really neat to see the kids be able to interact with the business owners. So today we hope to get the owners out and the kids talk to the owners and make that connection between people operating a business and where their activities that happen on their site and where the water goes.
Once citizen involvement begins, the joint effort builds momentum and enthusiasm.
I think the most important thing is to take action. The second most important thing to do is talk to your neighbors and draw a wide circle when you describe your neighbors. Talk to the local businesses, talk to your local government, get outside your normal circle.
There's certainly a lot more public focus on bull trout than there was 10 years ago. There's certainly a lot more awareness of the problems, both court problems and real problems, I think. So from a public perception standpoint, I think there's been a lot more knowledge gained, so to speak, and a lot more concern.
I don't think the promise of, you know, the Fish and Wildlife Service coming and spending $50,000 or $100,000 on a project on my place is really what sells it. I mean, what sells it is that education, thinking, you know, we can really have both.
We've got a good working relationship here with all the agencies that come together here, because it's everybody, the Forest Service, BLM, you people are kind of spearheading this along with us in our species office, you know, the governor's species office, taking the lead on this and working with us individuals, and I would feel comfortable going on with that.
And then there are the benefits to the fish.
In terms of replacing fish passage barriers at irrigation diversions, or we see protection on the riparian corridor, we see a response in the fish community.
Begun talking with not only private landowners, but also people who want to develop in the watershed, and we're trying to help improve development projects that do happen here, because development is going to happen in an urbanized area.
It's taken us 150 years to kind of get things screwed up, and it's going to take more than just 5 years or 10 years to get us back to where we need to be. And it's going to take a lot of cooperation and a lot of work, not only from us, but from the private landowners and from public land managers.
There are many things we can all do to help bring back bull trout and restore our watersheds to greater health.
As I've become more educated on, for instance, how a stream should function to be healthy, you know, that's been good education for me. And I've realized there's things that I can do. I mean, I might not be able to solve a problem of dewatering, but there are things that I can do to make that stream, you know, a more healthy place for fish and wildlife. But I think if, you know, through this process of you know, bringing people together and building personal trust with people, you know, I think that, you know, I've come to realize that there's other ways to achieve goals for both sides.
If we can get an agreement, an HCP or a Section 6 or whatever it is down the road, that landowners will jump on board and be part of the process. I mean, obviously without them, nothing's going to work. And no matter how hard we try as agency folks, it's not going to work without the landowners taking the lead, really.
The true test will be if my descendants can make a living off of this land without having side jobs or teach school or other jobs 5 days a week and have to work on the ranch 2 days, 24 hours a day. That will be the true test.
And whether it's my people or your people that are going to use those fish to help us survive, we have to put it back the way it was meant to be. Because if we don't, your kids, my kids are surely going to suffer for that. So us as human beings got to put it back into the right perspective, because that's the way the Creator had meant it to be. So that's our responsibility here today.